Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the 3rd and 20 Dynasty Podcast. I am JT, joined by Frank and Lounis. No Jake today, but the rest of the crew is here, and we have a lot to talk about in the news and notes because most free agents, I think, signed this week. I think most of the people who were left out there kind of got with teams. So we're just going to go position group by position group, and kind of the least interesting, I would say, would be the quarterback group.
Yeah,
but the Colts did sign Gardner Minshew after cutting Matt Ryan. So Gardner Minshew kind of looks like he's the bridge quarterback here, is how I'd say, right? Is that what we're going with for Gardner Minshew?
Yeah, but is he even going to be starting week one? Because I think the Colts are still interested in moving up. We saw the reports that they're still interested in Lamar. They're going to get a quarterback. It's just a matter of who.
Yeah, but at this current point in time, go ahead, Lance.
I was just gonna say, I think the only scenarios are if they draft Richardson or Levis.
Yeah, I think
if they get Stroud or Young, they would just start the rookie. Or obviously, if they get Lamar,
barring a trade for either a higher up pick or Lamar Jackson, I think Gardner Minshew right now would be the bridge guy, because I don't think Will Levis might be able to start right away. I just don't think he would. Anthony Richardson, I definitely don't think would start right away. So if they went after those two. I think
one of the problems, though, for the Colts where they're sitting right now is that as this process is going on, the confidence level that I think everyone has had in Will Levis is going down. And that includes all of those people who were the ones mocking him early, saying, oh, this guy is not saying that he's bad. But the fact of the matter is, it's more looking like Will Levis is the type of dude that goes just not in the top 5. Maybe he's in that range of pick 5 to pick 10 or somewhere between 10 and 20. But just not a player that, I've got pick 4. I'm freaking going crazy and drafting Will Levis if I'm forced to. And I think that's one of the reasons why Lamar Jackson's in play, is that if the draft goes the top 3 quarterbacks, Richardson, Bryce Young, and Stroud all go, you're the Colts, and you're like, shit, well, we don't want Will Levis at pick 4. Let's just get the MVP from a couple years ago. So I think that's why one of the major reasons why we've seen those reports floating around.
And that's a move I'd support if that's the case. Regardless, I mean, does Gardner Minshew, I think he's worth a roster spot, but I don't think he's worth any true. I'm not trading him expecting, like, say I have Kyler Murray out and I just need someone to fill in. Like, am I really going out and giving up assets to acquire Gardner Minshew when meanwhile I might just have like some random flex player who could give me the same amount of points? Like just a random running back or wide receiver who could give me some points. I don't know. I just don't think it's a positive.
I think the acquisition cost, no matter what's going to be too high with what Gardner Minshew has shown people. And I think part of it is literally the fact that he's kind of like a name and a meme that intrinsically people aren't going to be like, you know what? I'm not going to take like a 4th form or a 5th. It's going to take. Whereas like realistically, this is someone that should not command anything. I wouldn't pay a 3rd form. I wouldn't pay anything near a 3rd form.
Yeah, agreed. All right, well, we can move on from Gardner Minshew then. The other two, we'll go in order of importance, I guess. Jacoby Brissett signed with the Commanders. This one's a little more interesting because, Frank, you've been kind of high on Jacoby Brissett during this offseason, saying that if you're a team looking for that kind of a fill-in bridge quarterback, that's the guy that you'd go out and get. So you think this is what the Commanders did here?
Listen, I want to preface this by saying I am not really a huge Jacoby Brissett person. I feel like I've, for years and years, been like, I'm not a huge fan from like a fantasy and like, I think NFL talent perspective, right? I think that he's an awesome dude. And if I'm picking a guy to be the quarterback in like, everyone's had a couple beers, we're at the barbecue, who's your quarterback? Jacoby Brissett's my number 1. This year, though, on the actual field, he was great. As a Steelers fan, like, the dude tore people up. And there were so many amazing throws that he had in the end zone that were dropped. I can probably go back and find like 5 clips of people dropping absolute dimes for touchdowns, which I think is like legitimately part of the reason that kept Jacoby Brissett out of being like a Geno Smith-esque season. I think that he is the starter for this team come day one this season, and that means you should probably be trying to invest menial draft capital to acquire him. I was saying a couple episodes ago, I want to go and change my strategy from having the mid quarterbacks, right? If you have a quarterback in that I'm QB like 17 to 24 range and they don't have upside, I am transitioning into a Jacoby Brissett and another guy who's going to be a starter, but people have kind of written off for whatever reason.
I'm with you. I think he's better than any quarterback on the roster, obviously, right now and last season. I think he's better than Wentz and Heineke, and I think he'll be the starter. I was wondering when you said like you'd shift to that strategy, what would you give up right now for him? Let's say draft capital wise. It doesn't need to be an exact pick. You can say like a late, mid, early, whatever round.
That's a good question. I think ideally I want to pick him up for a 3 somewhere. I think that if you were going to try and game this and time the best time to buy Brissett, I feel like it's either in that trade where you're giving someone else a quarterback and the guy who has Brissett feels like he's selling high on him right now, like getting good value. Oh yeah, I upgraded my Jacoby Brissett into a Russell Wilson, and then I just pocket as much difference as I can in players or draft picks. I just don't think I'm comfortable paying like a late second for him. I think at that point I'd rather just shift gears and try and find a more attractively priced garbage can quarterback, at least from dynasty value wise, not from like on the field playing wise.
In a vacuum, assuming you just like you had to get one of these guys and they just stayed on your team, would you flip Sam Howell for Jacoby Brissett?
Yeah, I just don't believe in Sam Howell.
Okay.
Yeah.
At this point, I mean,
one of the interesting things really quickly is that for someone who's like an actual draft prospect, not, oh, he was like a 7th rounder or undrafted type player. If you were a diamond in the rough quarterback prospect, how many times does it take multiple seasons for them to show it? And it's not like we were tactically sitting this guy for a year, right? I feel like a lot of the time it really is, they kind of get an opportunity some point early. If they're like at least like what, a 5th round pick or below.
No, I agree with you. I mean, I think a good example of that would be like Gardner Minshew's rookie year. He was a low round pick, and I think he was more impressive then. I mean, Sam Howell was limited opportunity, but Gardner like showed something, and he still ended up kind of seeming like he's going to be a career backup. I mean, maybe he starts like a couple games this upcoming year in front of a rookie, but Sam Howell, I would give that up for Jacoby Brissett, because I mean you're not getting any kind of 2nd round pick for Sam Howell, and if we think Jacoby Brissett is worth an early 3rd, like at most it's even I'll take Brissett. I think Brissett has a decent chance of starting the entire season.
Yeah, I mean the only thing that I think really knocks him off is 1, injury, but 2, Lamar Jackson, if he potentially goes to the Commanders. I looked back in the last episode just to make sure we didn't talk about this, but Baker Mayfield signed with the Bucs.
I was about to ask if you guys touched on that. I think, what were you going to say about Baker? I'll wait for after your take.
I mean, I think he's just, at this point, the clear-cut best quarterback in the NFC South currently, which isn't really saying anything, but he is. Like,
CJ Stroud or Bryce Young goes.
Yeah, I mean, CJ's one of them's going to end up in Carolina, so it won't be. But like, I think this team could still potentially be a playoff team given what they have and what their competition is. Like,
oh wait! You think Baker's better than Derek Carr?
Yeah. Well, I think they're pretty close. At this point, I don't really like see a huge difference between either of them. And truthfully, I just think like either team could make the playoffs. I mean, they play each other hard every time. Saints and Bucs, right? Like, I don't think there's any.
Derek Carr is just wildly more consistent than Baker.
Yeah, it depends what kind of Baker you're getting.
And the bad Baker is really bad, right? The bad Derek Carr you can at least like kind of win with. Bad Baker is really, really rough.
But when have you seen Baker with these kind of receivers?
I just
Like
I agree with you. And if you look at the Bucs, this is a team that, and you could make this argument both for and against Baker, by the way. They have been at the top of the league in pass attempts, right? You can make it for like, okay, well, they were doing that with everyone from Jameis to Brady. Brady at like 47 years old, right? Not like whatever. And that might just continue, right? That just might be, and they have the weapons and kind of the build to do that. But also, it's like, okay, well, they're going to eventually regress back to the mean. Now that they have Baker, they're going to run the ball a lot. My problem is, what is the price tag for Baker? I feel like he's, from just off the top of my head, more towards a mid-second than what Jacoby Brissett is priced at.
Yeah, he's definitely worth more than Jacoby Brissett. I
am on a completely different page.
What do you think Baker's price is? Like 207's an unfair deal for Baker?
I don't think I can give up a second for Baker. I like, and if so, if I'm not going to be able to,
fair average price for Baker is not necessarily what you would give up.
Oh, I mean, the person who has him, they're probably going to be looking for something like a 208, somewhere in that range. My personal evaluation of it, I wouldn't give up more than an early third. I think an early third is fine, because I think the Bucs, I don't think really they're going to be. I wouldn't be surprised if they finish third in their division this year, or even like fourth. I'd say third. And I think they're kind of going to be one of the teams in the running for one of those top quarterbacks next draft. I think it's just because it's kind of a stopgap. And I mean, as someone who has Godwin, I'm very worried about Godwin. I'm so sure, like Mike Evans, I don't know if Baker will be able to support two fantasy relevant receivers that well. I mean, I guess maybe I'm just lower. I know he had a couple good games on the Rams, but like, I could not give up a second round pick.
As the resident Baker guy, I'll come to his defense. We're now 2 years removed from his shoulder injury, where he tore his labrum, I believe, if not dislocated. Either way, not a very easy injury to play through. Now we have him on a team with, I'd say pretty confidently, his best weapons. I mean, like OBJ obviously was nice in Cleveland, but like now he's got Mike Evans and Chris Godwin.
This is the best receiving core he's had.
I think we have, as someone who in our home league, I have both 207 and 208 and Baker Mayfield. I just be quicker to trade 207 or 208 than Baker Mayfield. Just because I think like you're getting a full, at minimum, you're getting a full year starter with something to prove. Two very nice wide receivers. I think Kirk Cousins is always criminally underrated. So saying he's going to put up a Kirk Cousins type season would be kind of at his like ceiling. Like that's his
30 touchdowns.
Dude, he threw like 27 as a rookie or something crazy.
Yeah, you're acting like
not that many, but he threw a lot.
People forget Baker Mayfield had like a very good first two seasons. Like a very good first two seasons.
He did, but
like one of the top rookie seasons of any quarterback.
Carson Wentz had a great first 3 seasons.
Yeah, I mean, you could make points in the opposite direction as well. I get that. I just think at the price that you're buying him at like a late second, you're not going to get a comparable quarterback from the draft. And from the open market, I mean, I think Derek Carr is more expensive than that, right? I think.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, Derek Carr is going to be way more expensive.
I'm trying
Derek
to think
Carr,
of like other.
Someone who's probably going to start for more.
And I agree with that point, JT. Is that when you look at his range of outcomes, right? You compare him to Jacoby Brissett, someone we were just talking about. Baker's risk is just about the same, and his upside is dramatically higher than Jacoby Brissett's. Yet the price of admission is what, a handful of picks more? Okay, Jacoby Brissett is an early third, and Baker, to get the Baker roster to budge, you have to give up. I mean, from the looks of it, I said 207, and from Lounis's reaction, I feel like that's getting done a lot of the time.
Yeah, I'm going on to keep trade cut right now, which, by the way, I think the calculator on keep trade cuts.
I think I have Baker in one of the 3rd and 20 leagues. If anyone wants to offer a second,
this comes to my point though, is that looking at the draft board, I kind of want 207 over Baker, but I just feel like, and that's a lot of it because Baker's a super risky player to hold. I mean, he could go kaputs, just like Carson Wentz did, right? He could go kaputs. And it because he's been given so many different opportunities on so many different teams, the likelihood is that he's closer to Carson Wentz or Jameis than Ryan Tannehilling his way back into being a franchise quarterback.
Here's the 5 up and down from Baker Mayfield in terms of quarterbacks. You've got Jimmy G, Desmond Ridder, Matthew Stafford, Sam Howell, and Hendon Hooker all above him. And then below him, you've got Ryan Tannehill, Malik Willis, Tyler Huntley, Kyle Trask, Zach Wilson.
It's just hilarious. Like the names, I don't know what to feel about these quarterback prices because you list some of those players and it's like, okay, as of right now, I would like much significantly rather have Hendon Hooker, right? Like, I just think that there's a chance that he's a 1st round pick now in the draft, and then boom, like insta stonks. Like I could just wait till the draft and flip him. Now that's probably just because Hendon Hooker's not, at least to me, accurately pressed to keep.
The hype train probably.
But then you go down, and it's like, okay, Ryan Tannehill, I can barely get a second for in leagues. All the other quarterbacks aren't even going to start.
Yeah,
right. Like
we're talking about Matthew Stafford potentially retiring. Desmond Ritter's not going to be starting.
Well, Desmond Ridder, Zach Wilson, like these guys, at least in my opinion, are not going to be starting.
Mm-hmm. Ridder might be.
I doubt it.
You don't think he's going to be a starter for the full year this year?
With Taylor Heineke there now?
You guys think they signed Heineke to be the starter?
And not to mention, they could just get someone in the draft.
I'm just coming off of the perspective that I saw Desmond Ridder at the end of last season, and I was not coming with the takeaway like, oh, there's a potential franchise quarterback.
I don't think he's a franchise quarterback either. I feel like he's probably going to be starter for this.
The team decided to. This is when I knew. Now it could just be an indictment on Arthur Smith. Like maybe Arthur Smith is just a big dumb idiot. But the team actively decided to keep Marcus Mariota in against the Bengals and just pass the ball like 5 times when they're down like 25 points against the Bengals. It's all kind of hyperbole, but it was something of a similar situation. The team decided to keep Marcus Mariota in there who couldn't pass, couldn't effectively move the ball, blah, 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 while they're still in playoff contention rather than go to Desmond Ridder. So that kind of tells me all I need. If they're not willing to test out Desmond Ridder in those like late game meaningful stuff when Marcus Mariota just wasn't getting the job done for the team, I don't know where to fit Desmond Ridder in all this.
I viewed Ridder as someone who I thought would start this year but not be starter probably after. But so you guys think Heineke, unless they draft someone, Heineke is their starter?
I think as far as hot seats are concerned for quarterbacks going into this year, Desmond Ridder is one of the hottest. If he even is like named the starter right away, like he is.
Dude, if they draft anyone, instantly Desmond Ridder's stock goes way down, and you're questioning if he's the starter at all, right? If he can beat the person out in camp. If they sign anyone in free agency, right? If Ryan Fitzpatrick got out of his panel spot and signed for the Falcons, I think he would be the favorite to start. Right? Like, to me, that I like, no matter what, I don't think Ridder's good enough to be a franchise quarterback. If you put a gun to my head, I'm taking Heineke to win a football game over Desmond Ridder. Yeah, Desmond Ridder is more talent, but every other box, it's not making sense. It's not getting checked. So,
all right.
Yeah, I'm going to sell Desmond Ridder for whatever the hell I can get.
In the classic 3rd and 20 ways, Baker Mayfield dominates.
Well, wait, hold on. Really quickly before we move on from Baker Mayfield, because I'm actually struggling to value Baker Mayfield. I totally see both sides of the argument. In one of my leagues, I have Baker Mayfield currently as my QB2 behind Mahomes.
Yeah, no, I'd bump him up above.
Going back to what I said, right? Because like, I don't know if I want to sell Baker for like a 210 or a 211. at that point, give me the fucking starting quarterback, or at least potentially starting quarterback.
Where do you think Hendon Hooker goes in rookie drafts? If he's a first round pick, he's going to shoot up.
Yeah, if he's a first round pick, instantly he's going late
first. Going to end up being a second round pick in the NFL draft, though. Do either of you guys actually think he has a legit shot at going in the first?
Personally, if I'm a GM, I'd take him over Anthony Richardson. But we've been.
Listen, one of the problems is that I'm a Hendon Hooker believer, so like I'm willing to be like, okay, close my eyes. He's not 25 and whatnot. Like,
yeah.
4 years old.
Close my eyes. That wasn't an NFL offense by any stretch of the imagination. Like, close my eyes. He had a nasty receiving core. Hendon Hooker's great. Like,
he'll be day 2 if he's not first round. So I mean,
I think he'll be a day 2 pick. I can't believe you said that. Richardson's 4 years younger than him, or whatever.
I know. I don't think either is a starter, truthfully. But I think I'd rather just take my chances as where Hendon Hooker is going compared to Anthony Richardson.
Like if you. I was saying that statement earlier with like I'm taking him today. So you have the chance of him going in the first round, or second round or whatever, right? Like obviously after the draft, it's going to confirm his value.
Yeah, wherever he'd be.
But even if Hendon Hooker goes in the second round, dude, I'm not really sure he makes it to 211.
Yeah, well, I mean, Jalen Hurts was a second round pick, right? A mid second.
And he went like late second in rookie drafts.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to get.
I think he I don't know. I guess it's weird because they're always all over the board. These quarterbacks, right? It's whoever believes in them is going to pick them at that spot wherever they have the pick every time.
Mm-hmm.
So I think a general rule of thumb though is if they go in the second round, they're probably somewhat close to a second round.
Yeah.
Startup rookie pick.
Yeah.
And landing spot is going to matter. I think part of the reason with Jalen Hurts is that, that was a really wacky landing spot with Philadelphia, right? It was just an out of the blue.
Because Carson Wentz was like still good at that point.
Yeah, I mean, did they just give him the contract?
Yeah, and they just like made the playoffs. They lost in the first round because he had a concussion, but like he played well that year with like ass receivers. So,
all right, let's get into some juicy stuff though. Let's get into the receivers here.
All right, we do have one more kind of thing. We just talked about him, but I don't think he's really worth that much of a mention. Marcus Mariota signed with the Eagles, kind of just Jalen Hurts insurance.
Yeah.
But now we get into the juicy stuff. Brandin Cooks traded to the Cowboys, going to another Texas team. I think decent move. I mean, I like it for Brandin Cooks. It kind of just tells me though the team thinks Gallup lost a step. I don't know if that's where you guys saw that too.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just think it's a good move all around. Because I think part of the issue with Gallup was that coming off that ACL, he just wasn't 100%. And it, like, in retrospect, you can make the argument he kind of rushed himself back. So I think that Gallup is going to be better next year. But B, we kind of saw like, okay, the Cowboys offense was already good last year, but their passing attack was just more consistent when they had a younger, more inexperienced CeeDee Lamb, but paired with Cooper and Gallup. I think they just want to get back to that. Year. And
they missed Cooper a ton.
Right, and they were able to just take Dalton Schultz and turn him into Cooks, which when you look at the Cowboys offense last year with how many multiple tight end sets they used, now they can do whatever the fuck they want personnel wise because they have multiple deep threats. They have a guy like CeeDee Lamb who they can put the ball in his hands. They have still a little army of rando tight ends. They've got, good running backs, right? So it's like they kind of just have a whole slew of opportunities and different things they can do. And like I think we would all agree that Brandin Cooks is a more dynamic passing weapon attack than Dalton Schultz is.
Yeah. And from Dynasty, stock up on Brandin Cooks, right? No one's gonna.
Oh yeah, tremendous. Not tremendously. I just think like always, and more so than last year, there's a pretty darn good chance that Brandin Cooks has that high 900s, low 1,000-yard season with a good 6 touchdowns. a little bit inconsistent, but all things considered, a plug and play player for your lineup that's just cheap.
Are we on consensus on Brandin Cooks is going to have the better season than Gallup?
Yeah, I am.
He's definitely the favorite. And like, if I'm going to put my money on Cooks, I'm not going to come out here and say that Gallup is going to have a better season, but I just think that it wouldn't be anything. I think Gallup is being a little bit underpriced right now, coming off that ACL injury.
I was about to ask a follow-up question after being who would you rather have in Dynasty?
I'd still rather have Cooks, but that's just because I'm really comfortable with Cooks putting up 1,000 yards. But I don't think that doesn't mean that Gallup can have a pretty productive season. I don't know. I guess the issue is that where do the targets go? Because this is a Cowboys team that's probably going to still run the ball a decent amount. They have 2 receivers that are just over Gallup. I imagine they're still going to do a lot of those multiple tight end sets that they were running last year. So how does Gallup not just be kind of what he's been? Oh, I'm going to get my I'm not
as confident in the double tight end set. I think they're going to bank on those 3 receivers a lot, because then they parted ways with Kellen Moore this offseason, or am I bugging? And that was the year prior.
I thought he was still there, and he was just getting interviewed for. Oh, wait a minute, did he switch?
Yeah, I think they parted ways.
He's the OC for the Chargers now.
Yeah, he did switch. Okay. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe too, because they don't have Zeke. Maybe they might just be more willing to be we're just going to pass the ball a little bit more and go with more of the rest of the NFL with the 3 receiver sets. Because right now, actually, no, we're going to get into Ronald Jones later. But yeah, I think all things considered, stock up on Brandin Cooks.
Yeah. Brian Schottenheimer is the new OC for the Cowboys.
Well, we get touch on Gallup really quickly, because I think Gallup is a guy that's just like a little bit fucked, but what do you do? Are you just screwed if you have him? Because I invested in Gallup last year, and I kind of got burned by it.
So I have him in one league. I'm just holding. I do think, like, even though I think Cooks is gonna have the better season, I think Gallup will have a better year this year, and his value will increase, because he's not old or anything. I don't know how old exactly he is. Maybe like 25.
27.
He's 26. Okay. Well, not old, but not young.
Reaction.
And wow, I'm surprised he's 27. I was going to guess 25 or 26, but I think he's going to have a better season. And kind of to the point, I think the offense is going to be really centered around those 3 receivers. I do think, obviously, like, Pollard's still going to have a good year. I don't think. I mean, we'll get into him, but I don't think Ronald Jones is going to have much happening for him. We'll talk more about him in a minute, though. But I think they're going to bank on those 3 receivers. If Dak is healthy, like Dak, I think Dak can support the 3 of them decently.
These other players ranked around Michael Gallup, if you want, on Keep Trade Cut, if you want like a current idea of where he's going. Although I think he is kind of dipping down a little bit. Kareem Hunt, Tyler Boyd, Michael Thomas, KJ Osborne, Nico Collins are who's ranked above him. In reverse order, Nico Collins is like the closest to him. And then below him are Curtis Samuel, Isaiah Hodgins, DJ Chark, Mike Gesicki, Ryan Tannehill. That's kind of the cluster of players he's sandwiched in between. All of them are basically the same amount of points on Keep Trade Cut.
I want to believe in the talent of Michael Gallup, because I think that from a talent perspective, he's still fine, but...
Which third wide receiver would you rather have on your team, Tyler Boyd or Michael Gallup?
I think I'd rather have Boyd.
I'm also in the Boyd camp.
I think the better question is Curtis. I think the better question is Curtis Samuel versus Gallup.
I think I'd take Gallup there.
I think I might take Curtis Samuel still.
I think I'd lean Curtis Samuel by a slight bit.
The problem with Gallup is that his upside is basically higher than all those players he's listed around.
Yes,
named
I
Michael
do think
Thomas.
Gallup is higher upside. Yeah.
But who gives a shit if you can't start him?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I think every single one of those players you mentioned, if they are healthy and on a team, they are just better to start. Even fucking Mike Gesicki. Like, I think I'd rather just start Gesicki in my flex spot.
I don't know.
I'll give Gallup the edge.
I
In
don't
these
know.
tight end premium leagues, I don't fucking know, man. Like,
I just don't know how they're going to use Gesicki because like Hunter Henry's still there. I'm assuming we're going to run 2 tight ends. That's a decent amount, but
I still think the Patriots bring in a receiver in the draft.
well, yeah, DeAndre Hopkins is getting rumored. They do have like a high draft pick in this where it's looking like
it's in the range of one of those receivers
very high. Yeah, they could get one in either the first or the second. So I don't know what Gesicki's going to be looking like.
But how much
this season?
I think the interesting thing about the Patriots, I mean, we could talk about Gesicki now, I guess. We could just mix in a tight end. Because he signed with the Patriots. Because of the fact that he lines up split outside in that big slot a ton, is he eating into JuJu more than traditional tight end stuff than a guy like Hunter Henry? Because I wouldn't be surprised if they have Gesicki lining up a majority of his snaps, not with his hand in the dirt, but being motioned around and being in the slot, paired with JuJu, and that, just moving him around, right? Like, and still having Hunter Henry as that more traditional hand in the dirt tight end. I feel like they tried to do that with JuJu, but JuJu wasn't like, he just wasn't an elite enough receiver, right? Like, yeah, he's better blocking and whatnot, but just down the field, he wasn't enough of a threat to have him be like a guy that you want to move around all over your offense.
I don't think he's going to eat into JuJu's simply because, like, when I look at Gesicki on the Dolphins, it always seemed like he struggled to break through past those kind of second/third wide receivers. So I think like JuJu would be fine. I think what's interesting is how this team is going to line up with the terms of like Devontae Parker and Tyquan Thornton and who you're going to have out there on your like third and distance, like third and longs. Like, is Gesicki out there for this?
They don't add another receiver with either Hopkins or in the draft.
Yeah, I
don't think that matters though, because
I think if they draft like, I don't know, if they get like JSN, it's another guy on like the inside.
I just don't think they draft. Whoever they draft needs to play on the outside. Every single year, the fucking Patriots have been looking to get an X receiver. That's why they paid big bucks for Aguilar. Like, every single move they've done has been, we want an elite or at least a good outside like X receiver. And it's just every single one of their shitty moves just hasn't panned out, right? Oh, let's get Sanu. Oh, let's get Devontae Parker. Oh, let's get
we don't need to go down this road.
Oh, let's draft N'Keal Harry. And it's just like miss.
That was so mean. That was so mean. Yeah. But yeah, I'm trying to picture this offense though. Like it's a nice 52 degrees October afternoon and they're playing the Dolphins. Like, who's lining up out there on third and long for Mac Jones, right? I think Ramondre Stevenson's in the backfield. I think you've got Hunter Henry in as one of the tight ends. Do you have Gesicki out there too? Or are you going to have, obviously JuJu's going to be out there, but then are you going to have Gesicki versus Kendrick Bourne, Tyquan Thornton type player, Devontae Parker? Or are you going to have like one of these guys you brought in, like DeAndre Hopkins or Quinn Johnston? To me, I struggle to see if Gesicki's going to get the usage necessary to make him like kind of anything more than just a random dart throw tight end.
I am more towards JT's side. I'm not really high on Gesicki at all. I feel extremely unconfident and uncomfortable.
So then what are we trying to move Gesicki for right now then? What's the trade?
Let's look at where Gesicki is now ranked.
So yeah, I see 20 players behind. I'm looking at that bulletproof with 3 Fs.
Okay. The ADP. Yeah.
Yeah. Shout out him. This site's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and Bean Counter too.
KJ Osborne, Kenneth Gainwell, Claypool, 212. Let's cut out 212 though, because I think that might go up draft time. Elijah Mitchell, Isaiah Light. Oh wait, I'm going the wrong way. Hold on. Daniel Bellinger, 301. Jelani Woods, Noah Fant, Donta Foreman, Devin Singletary, Nico Collins, Alan Lazard, 302.
I think I take most of those guys over Gesicki.
I'd rather Noah Fant. I'd definitely rather Noah Fant.
I don't know.
Jelani Woods is an interesting one because he's an athletic freak, but I don't know what his actual like how much.
I mean, I think a good question. I think a good question is like, would you guys rather have like 302 or Gesicki?
You want to know what's an interesting move that I'm thinking about looking at this? Instead of doing, can you get anything on top of Cade Otton for Gesicki?
I think just based off name value alone, probably.
Or maybe you can solve that problem with multiple trades. Like you trade Gesicki for 302 and then, I don't know, move back a couple spots, pick up something, and then move it for Otton.
So Ryan McDowell of DLF tweeted out what looked to be the ADP, the rookie ADP so far for the second round. I'm trying to pull it up. I think Jake sent it to us earlier. I don't know how much I believe this right now, but I mean, DLF is one of the bigger sources in the Dynasty community. And Michael Mayer was the only tight end to go in the second round. And he's the tight end 1 off the board. So he went at like 206. So if you're telling me I could get tight ends later,
that's not going to happen, dude. You want to know why it's not going to happen?
They're going to get drafted in the first round and they're going to shoot up.
And listen, I'm going to offend a lot of people, and I'm probably going to be wrong with at least one of these players. But in my opinion, once the draft comes around, you're going to see the Zach Evanses and the Kayshon Bouttes and whatnot, who all have second-round draft capital right now.
Okay, yeah,
they're going to get cooked, and then boom, they go to third-round players. And when these tight ends go in the first round, everyone's going to be like, holy shit, I could take a guy that got drafted in the first, or I can take a fourth-round running back. Like,
yeah, that part's true. But if you're telling me I even have the chance of like one of those other tight ends, I think I'm just going to move off Gesicki. I don't trust Gesicki like at all at this point.
Yeah, I don't disagree with you, but his this is one of the reasons why I moved off him last year.
Yeah, I've been kind of a staunch opponent of Gesicki for a while now.
But I feel like now I want to get back in because now he's half price from last year, and he's not behind 2 nasty fucking receivers.
I mean, it's not 2 nasty receivers, but it's just like 3-4.
We still don't know what the receivers are for this team. We know JuJu's there. We know JuJu's ahead of him.
We know JuJu's there.
We don't know
he's there.
If there's another player
part of it too, though, is that they didn't want Gesicki. You know, that coaching staff that went in there was trying to move him. They knew he didn't fit the offense. That's why Durham Smythe was playing a lot. They wanted a tight end who was going to block, who was going to be a traditional tight end. That's not what Gesicki is, right? So I feel like you had a staff whose scheme was just not Gesicki friendly. Like in their schemes where it's like, oh, you know, like a Gallup, right? Oh, he's the number 3. It's like, no, well, he's the number 3 option. And he's in an offense that like they want their fucking tight end to not be the focal point. So you get double fucked. And now he goes to a team that's like, okay, we're tight end merchants. Like
that's true.
They're tight end merchants, but like Jonathan Smith saw nearly no use. Like he struggled to see any usage last year. And that's on the team.
Is that a Jonnu Smith problem?
That's a good point.
They did kind of try.
That's a good point. I mean, the follow the money kind of thing, like they should have used. I mean,
by the way, we want to talk about he's the number 3. Like Trent Sherfield finished with more receiving yards than him, just less touchdowns. Trent Sherfield had 417 receiving yards and 2 touchdowns on 30 catches. Gesicki was 32 catches, but for 362 receiving yards, and then he had 5 touchdowns.
That's
all 3 more touchdowns. Yeah, no, it wasn't good.
I knew it wasn't good.
He had more he had more touchdowns, especially being a red zone threat, but he was 4th in yards.
Yeah, and he's currently not priced like someone that just had that poor of a season. Like I get what Frank's saying, he's half priced from where he was. I just argue I don't even know if that's the price I want to get in on.
Like
I don't know,
and I do think the Patriots are going to bring in another. And I do think the Patriots are going to bring in another receiving threat. I don't know if it's going to be Hopkins. I don't know if it's going to be through the draft. I don't know if it's going to be Jerry Jeudy, but I think one of them.
I don't disagree with you that there are players ranked below Gesicki that I like more than him and potentially significantly more. But I also don't think that doesn't mean that if I'm able to trade 301 or 302 for Gesicki, that I might not just do that in some context. I'm gonna wait to see who's on the board there, but I could see myself doing a move like that. But once again, it kind of comes back to like, okay, I could do that, or I could try to trade my 301 for, like I was saying, I think Cade Otton I might just rather have over Gesicki. Or if I could get a Baker for that price, or if I could get potentially DJ Chark right now and he's signed somewhere, potentially like a fucking Odell, Curtis Samuel. Like I might just rather have those players over Gesicki.
Yeah, that's more so where I lie. Moving on to our next one. Elijah Moore. This just happened today. Elijah Moore.
Wait, real quick before we get to Elijah Moore, since we already talked about the Patriots, you just want to touch on JuJu quick.
Oh yeah, sure. That's actually good because
Well, copy and paste Jacoby Myers season.
I don't think he actually might have a productive year. I don't know. It's going to depend on what they do the rest of the offseason.
That's
why it's hard to get a read on it right now.
Look, I think Jacoby Myers' best season, I think we saw. I don't think Jacoby Myers is going to now go off into the Raiders and peak higher than what he's done on the Patriots. I mean, we got to keep in mind he was a UDFA. He played solid for the Patriots. He's going to another disciple of Belichick and McDaniels. But I think when you actually compare like prospect versus prospect and who these players are, I just like JuJu a whole lot more. Now, the problem is, though, now we've seen JuJu on the Steelers. We've seen him on the Chiefs. So we've seen him in different offenses, and he's kind of just been that 20% target share kind of player, which is like, it's good, but it's not enough to really excite you kind of thing. So my overall outlook on JuJu is kind of just meh. If his value is going to go up in the market, I'd be willing to move off JuJu. But like for right now, where he's currently priced as a wide receiver 49 on Keep Trade Cut, he's like around the likes of Jacoby Myers. I don't see really moving off JuJu. I think I'd rather just hold for now. But I wouldn't be expecting, I think a top 24 wide receiver, like it's in his range of outcomes, but like that's not what I'm expecting from JuJu.
I don't think he's going to finish with a wide receiver 2 season.
Yeah, that's not what I'd expect out of JuJu at this point.
I just feel like the more time goes on, the more JuJu becomes limited in the offenses that he plays.
Yeah.
So I'm like, I agree with you, JT. I do think he's still more of a buy than a sell, given the price tag. And I think a lot of the, like, I would honestly say that Jacoby Myers, you bump him down to what I think he's going for nowadays, because he was going for some of the trades that I saw, right? When he was going mid-second, like 208-ish before free agency with people banking on the Christian Kirk stuff, I agree that he overrated. But now you push him back to like a 212, 301. I think you now bridge a gap in prospect level to where Jacoby Myers might be a flex play, and the dude that you're taking there could just be fucking terrible. And when the draft comes, we could see. I wouldn't be surprised if you could get like a 303 done on draft day. Someone wants that dude that fell a little bit, and you could pick up a flex play for pretty cheap.
He's kind of held his value, Jacoby Myers, on Keep Trade Cut. Like he's kind of in that just mid-second range right now.
Dude, I don't buy that though. I don't buy that.
It's not an exciting player. So yeah, like I think for just your like typical football fan, like you're gonna be like, oh, like cool, Jacoby. Like you're not gonna be a diehard follower of the Patriots and really know much about Jacoby Myers.
He's got to think. I mean, in terms of Jacoby Myers, like, do either of you think that he's gonna have a better or a more productive season than Hunter Renfrow?
Yes.
Yeah, I'd rather.
What do you guys think? Because I think they're going to be very similar.
I think that coaching staff brought in Jacoby Myers for.
That's actually a good point. You know what? That's actually a good point. Knowing they had Renfrow. I take back.
I think the issue is that, and yeah, their range of outcomes might be pretty similar. I think now that you have Devontae Adams in the offense, this is contrary to what I think a lot of people would think, is that, Jacoby Myers is the one that is going to really eat into Renfrow. I actually think it's Devontae Adams, because Devontae Adams and Hunter Renfrow, I think you use them at a similar point in the play. It's like they're going to be the number one option on these option routes, right? So you can't have two of those in one play. You can't have a read like that. That's really difficult. Whereas I feel like Jacoby Myers as just a Robin. If you see good one-on-one coverage, boom. If you want to go take away Jacoby Myers, fine, go ahead. But you have to focus your resources on Devontae Adams. So I think that's where, and I don't know, I like Renfrow and Myers, but I think that I would just bet on Renfrow, especially too, because now that the jury seems to be out on Renfrow a little bit, I think it's just a little bit easier to stop him than any other of the receivers.
No, I discounted the fact that it's a new coaching staff and they knew they had Renfrow there and they still went out and gave Myers money. I think that's a pretty important factor.
But I also think that we shouldn't look past the fact that you can have an average passing attack sustain 3 receivers.
We saw it with Washington.
Especially because this is a team that we could project might not use their tight end whatsoever.
Yeah, they traded away Waller.
Yeah, they might just be like, okay, we're just not going to throw more than 40 targets to a tight end on our team. 50 targets.
I do think that will be the case. I don't see Foster Moreau really he might get some red zone touchdowns, but he's a wasteland tight end.
And I don't know. I actually think that if you look at their team last year, they did have some success, and I think Josh Jacobs does thrive a little bit when you spread the field out, and you give him a little bit of space to work with. So,
we want to move on?
Yeah, I'm down to move on.
Okay. Elijah Moore traded to the Browns. This just happened today. Kind of, I'll combine this actually with some other part because the Jets...
shit! Foster Moreau has cancer and he's out for the season.
Oh, what? That's sad news.
Jesus, well, that sucks.
Is that did we just learn that from chat?
Yeah, Dad 30 just put it in.
Oh, he just tweeted it 56 minutes ago.
Oh, well, prayers out to Foster Moreau.
Okay, wait, I have his tweet.
Hodgkin's lymphoma.
He tweeted this at 7:23 p.m., so right before we started recording. Through somewhat of a miraculous process, this free agency period has been life-changing for me. During a routine physical conducted by the Saints medical team down in New Orleans, I've come to learn that I have, I hope I pronounced this right, Hodgkin's
lymphoma,
and will be stepping away from football at this time to fight a new opponent, cancer. I'm grateful for the support and thankful for the people who have stood firm with me. There hasn't been a single step I've taken without hundreds of people lighting the path before me, and I will continue to seek their guidance. That being said, I'll go kick this thing's ass and get back to doing what I love. That's crazy. That literally happened 7 minutes right before we started recording. Wow.
Yeah, I mean, fortunately, considering the circumstances, I'll say fortunately, it's Hodgkin's lymphoma, which is more of the outlook, if you find it right away, is pretty high. So, I mean,
yeah.
Prayers out to Foster Moreau, but that's a positive outlook knowing that they caught it and he'll be starting treatment. So, but okay, that was kind of crazy.
Yeah,
just right now.
All right, Elijah Moore.
Elijah Moore and Mecole Hardman. I'm just going to combine the two right now because the Jets, they signed Mecole Hardman and then shortly after traded Elijah Moore to the Browns. Kind of just signaling the end of, I guess, Moore's roller coaster of a ride with the Jets. I have to assume stocks up on Elijah Moore. We'll stick with Elijah Moore first. I have to assume stocks up on Elijah Moore.
Real quick on Elijah Moore, is there any just final thoughts, prayers you want to say about David Bell?
All right, look, I'm gonna get the pound. I'm getting the pound face soon. Let me check my reminders.
That was a great delivery.
You caught me. Yeah, you caught me off guard there because I thought we were going back to Foster Moreau. Yeah, May 1st is when that happens. So we're a month and a couple days away from me getting the pound face treatment. Because there's no shot he's going to be ahead of Christian Watson on keep trade cuts.
No.
Well, yeah. So is this a stock up for Elijah Moore? Because I think the real one is Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah.
Because Donovan Peoples-Jones low key had a pretty darn good season.
Yeah, he was solid.
I saw a very select few buying him. You actually also with the compensation. It was a very interesting trade because on paper it's really not a lot. But for where the Jets are at, the trade makes sense because I feel like they're a team. They want to get a day one contributor. You just have to be towards the top of the draft for that to happen more times than not.
I mean, early second and an early third for Elijah Moore. That feels like a lot for Elijah Moore to be given.
No, it was an early second for Elijah Moore and an early third.
Oh, okay.
So they moved back basically like 30 picks.
Like honestly, I think we all believe in Elijah Moore's talent, but I think considering like the situation that happened last year, if you just look at like numbers, again, I know he's more talented than the numbers he's put up.
No, he didn't get the IU treatment. He got the fucking we literally do not want you treatment.
Well, okay, yeah. I guess. But I mean, first he was getting the IU treatment, and then he flipped out on LaFleur, and then he got we don't want you treatment.
So yeah, he did ask out. I mean, in terms of the Jets, I think they're gonna get similar production than what they would have. Even though I think Elijah Moore is more talented than Lazard, I think Lazard can give them similar production to what they've been getting when Elijah Moore plays. But going kind of more towards Elijah Moore now, I think the big thing is like, and kind of the mystery with the Browns is what Deshaun Watson are we going to get? Are we going to get the Deshaun Watson, how he was from years in Houston, where he was like an all-pro caliber quarterback, one of the best quarterbacks in football, and he would be, if anyone was getting that Deshaun, I'd be very fucking excited about Elijah Moore. But then last year, I know he was off for a year and then like missed a lot of the season, or it was suspended for a lot of the season and came back, and it's like a whole new team, new offense. He wasn't able to necessarily do everything like in a normal season going into it. But like, it didn't really look great. Like I feel confident in Amari Cooper still, regardless. But I think that's
I'm gonna cut you off there and say like whatever you just said in the beginning before that, but that's how I'm gonna operate off Deshaun Watson, because I don't think you just go from being that kind of elite level quarterback to now being not good.
Oh, so you still have faith in Watson?
Yeah, I mean,
I'm not saying I don't. I
will say, if we're going to talk about Watson, the one thing that needs to be mentioned is the fact that dude played in a situation unlike most players have ever played.
No, it's
right. Like even Mike Vick, when Vick came back from the whole dog fighting thing, he was people were pissed off, but there was a good amount of people like, no, he paid his dues. Like, he was punished. Now he can come. Like, not obviously, like there was still a whole thing, but most people were like, yo, Deshaun Watson should that dude did not get the punishment he deserved.
Yeah. And just from a football standpoint, Mike Vick was like a backup for a full year. Like he had another year kind of learning Andy Reid's passing offense before getting the chance to be the starter. Deshaun Watson just got traded here to Cleveland last summer. So now he has like a 1 full year under his belt. So we'll see how he does next year. But Vic had like a lot more time learning that offense.
But I don't know. Elijah Moore is in a really awkward spot. I think I'm going to be selling Elijah Moore just because I don't want to entertain the risk.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still kind of out on Elijah
Moore. What do we think we can sell Elijah Moore for right now?
I mean, I'm taking that mid-second. I think that 205 is around, like 205, 206 is around the price that
probably
you see.
The price, yeah. That's right.
Because I feel like it's just like, okay, you see Sky Moore going for more of like that 209, 210, 208 when he gets moved. You just bump that up a smidge because Elijah Moore at least had that really good rookie season that kind of like boosts up his range of outcomes.
No, I mean, I think that's. Would you rather have Sky Moore or Elijah Moore right now? Even though I know Elijah Moore is a little bit more expensive.
I think at their price, I'd rather have Sky Moore, especially considering the fact that people need to realize that Sky Moore has more of a chance of breaking out as a rookie player. He had more of a chance breaking out later than coming onto the scene and stepping it up. Like, I think you need to look at the Chiefs and say, like, they have a plan. They signed JuJu to a 1-year deal. I honestly think with the plan of we're going to draft a guy like Sky Moore, we're not going to be idiots and rely on rookie players unless they're good to help us win. Let's just deal, like, let's give Mahomes the stepping board, right? The stones that he needs to just win, right? If we're going to rely on rookie players, let's do that on fucking defense. You know, let's make sure we have dudes who can play now for sure for Super Bowls and for Mahomes. And that's the plan going in. Now Sky Moore a year in the system. At cost, I'd rather have him over Elijah Moore.
I agree. I mean, especially considering you look at the receiving core now, it's wide open.
You're talking about the Chiefs.
Since you're on the Browns, how about Hunt and Dearness Johnson gone? Any thoughts on Jerome Ford? I just didn't like Jerome Ford coming out of the draft. So I'm pretty sure I had like a do not draft grade on Jerome Ford, if I'm not getting confused.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I picked him up at the end of the 5th round in our home league.
I wouldn't be totally surprised if in one of the later rounds, like maybe 5th through 7th, they brought in a running back.
Let me see. What did I have him at?
Yeah, Jerome Ford is like, if you have the roster spot, obviously I just speculatively add him. But I don't think he's going to go anywhere. I do think, though, that if I could pull up the article, I think Matthew Berry did mention him in his, yearly article about like things I learned from training camp. I forget what it's called, but I think he mentioned that Jerome Ford would be the guy to look at from this Browns offense as to step up, not Dearness Johnson, and that kind of has panned out so far because now we'll talk about Dearness Johnson in a minute. But it looks like Jerome Ford might be the second running back on the roster currently until they draft someone.
Yeah, I'll sell him for a third right now because if
Can
that's
you even get a third for him right now?
If that becomes the narrative, I'm fucking down. Because dude, if I'm the Browns, I'm drafting a back.
That's what I'm saying. I would wait for any thoughts because I could see them drafting a back in one of the later rounds. Nothing like day 2, but like a day 3.
I could see them spending a decent draft pick on a running back.
I agree.
I think that this team, the Browns team, I honestly think is going to be one of these analytically driven teams where they are buying into the whole we don't want to spend money on running backs anymore. Nick Chubb, apparently they're trying to trade him, but they're not going to be able to. Once they're able to get out of Chubb, I think that you're going to see the Browns buy into this whole we're just going to start drafting backs in the mid rounds and signing low value free agents.
I'm just like looking at Keep Trade Cut right now, and he's in like the 1500s range. Like he's ranked around players like Mike White, Pierre Strong, Matt Corral, Van Jefferson.
All right, I'll do Jerome Ford in a 4th for a 3rd then.
I'm just thinking like at that point, like you're probably considering cutting him. Like he's probably a cut candidate. So would you carry him on your roster? Like is this someone?
Oh yeah, I'd carry him on my roster. Are you kidding me?
Okay.
If you have the space.
Yeah, he's not a cut candidate. Right now he's the second running back on the roster. Dude, you're not cutting like, Jerome Ford if you have him.
I'm not. Personally, I'm not. But I'm saying like the players that he's ranked around, they're probably players that you're considering like Gus Edwards, Kyle Phillips, Tim Patrick.
Yeah, but I just think that Keep Trade Cut is just when it gets to the lower end players, really not great.
That's a little bit off.
I think for the higher end guys, it's pretty fucking accurate.
Skull's not in chat right now, but he loves the just harbor and hold all running backs kind of strategy. Where that's kind of where I agree with him. Where if I'm picking between looking at like Tim Patrick, for example, or I'm trying to find another wide receiver, Devin Duvernay, these guys probably aren't getting cut realistically. But like if that's really who I'm choosing between, I think I'd rather just keep the running back on my team.
I think it follows like the 80-20 rule. And I kind of treat tight ends this way as well. Like I'd rather just hold a tight end or a running back at a bench spot than I would a random QB or random receiver. But like it's not a hard and fast thing though, because at the end of the day, having the more talented player and having the guy that just scores more points is ultimately what matters. But yeah, like the whole theory behind that is that running backs are easily the most victim of opportunity. So anyone that just is vaulted into the starting spot, if you give them 12 carries, there's a good chance they have at least some production, right? Like,
yeah.
All right, we've kind of been running long so far, so I'm going to get us through the wide receivers real quick. There's two that I want to knock out of the way, and then we can spend more time on the last one. But the Raiders, sorry, not the Raiders, the Giants signed Parris Campbell and Darius Slayton, re-signed Darius Slayton. So they added two more to their wide receiving core. Any thoughts there? Nothing. Are either of them going to see like legitimate playing time?
Yes, but they're not going to be legitimately fantasy relevant.
I think the Giants are one of the top contenders or possibilities, whatever you want to say, to draft a receiver first round. So it's kind of hard to get a read on the receiving outlook until after the draft.
They would have a pretty crowded wide receiver room at this point. Because
I mean, you got Hodgins, you got Wan'Dale. He looked good when he played last year.
Wan'Dale Hodgins, Parris Campbell, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard's going to be
I have a question.
Back.
Would you guys rather have Slayton or Parris Campbell?
I think I'd rather have Parris Campbell.
Me too.
I think I answered it as neither, but
I mean, just who would you rather have on your roster? But yeah, I think if I had to predict, I think the Giants take a receiver in the first 2 rounds. And I feel pretty confident saying that. They brought in Darren Waller. The Slayton signing is not really doing anything for me. If you're starting him for a week, it means you're probably in a pretty desperate spot.
I'm not that confident, but I will say this just seems to me like if I'm the Giants, these moves scream, I'm just trying to put my roster in a spot where we can take the best guy on the board. We don't have to force a receiver. If it doesn't match, right? If a team wants to move up in front of us to take someone, go ahead, because we have a group of receivers that we can at least go into the season with. And I think that's a smart way to look at the progress.
Receiving core, obviously. Because I mean, I have Hodgins for the whole year, who kind of became their wide receiver one by the end of the season.
And I mean, more so out of need than talent, but
I mean, he was productive in the games he played.
Well, let me ask JT this though, because you think they're going to take a receiver, fine.
Yeah.
JT, do you want to gamble on the fact that they don't and invest in any of these Giants passing attack? Because I do think the consensus take is that they're taking a receiver.
No, I mean, true.
And by the way, I don't necessarily mean I think it could be in the second.
This isn't exactly like a I don't know how to describe this, like a upstanding citizen kind of move, but because like we're friends and I know him, Jake has had this long outstanding trade with me where he was trying to get Isaiah Hodgins from my team. And I just didn't respond to it. And once I saw what was going on with the Giants and like them getting Darren Waller and them getting them, I just hit accept. So I traded down Isaiah Hodgins for a 306. So it's not exactly a move I'd recommend with just random league mates, but because I like to mess around with Jake,
I had a trade offer to trade for Hodgins for 302.
And I do want to say Hodgins.
Oh, really?
Hodgins' production came when Wan'Dale and is it Bellinger or Bellinger?
Bellinger is how I say it.
When they were out. I do want to bring that up, and both of them are going to be back, and both of them were productive when they played. So I think that's not something to count out.
Yeah, JT, someone offered that trade to me, JT. I don't have it. I didn't offer it out to someone.
I see. Yeah, I think that kind of answers the question of I'm just not willing to bank. I think better players at some point are coming into this team. I'm not going to bet on what I've seen as like a small sample size of production.
I think the two most talented receiving threats are Waller and Wan'Dale, and I think they're going to bring in a third.
All right. Well, okay. We knocked out the 2 Giants wide receivers. So the last one, the Vikings cut Adam Thielen, and then the Panthers signed Adam Thielen. So he's probably going to be the wide receiver 1 for either CJ Stroud or Bryce Young, is who I assume would be the 2. But whoever the Panthers.
Nice side topic. I know it's not related to who do you guys think they're taking number 1 if you had to pick right now?
I mean, just based on the Vegas odds moving that sharply to like someone had to know.
Stroud.
Someone had to know Stroud was going there.
It's kind of looking like Stroud. Okay.
I would probably take Bryce Young, but I don't know.
Oh, you still think Bryce Young? I mean, it doesn't really matter.
I'm struggling with Adam Thielen because he is productive. It's not like he didn't play for the Vikings. I think now, 2 sides of the coin. I feel like he lost a step last year. 100%. You watch those Viking games, he did. He was playing through a lot of hurtness because you could just see when he was playing. Every time he took a hit, he was hurting and whatnot. So, like, maybe he just kind of an off season to get healthy is not banged up while playing during the season and kind of goes back to the old Thielen.
My problem with that, I think at some point now he did start later in his career, so he doesn't have exactly the amount of hits that like a typical wide receiver at the age is, but he is going to be 33 years old. He's not like
usually the gap year as well. Like
he's not the physical specimen that like Julio Jones is right at that age kind of thing. So, I mean, what's my outlook on Adam Thielen staying healthy, gaining a step back, or at least returning to like I'm not going in on Adam Thielen is kind of where I'm getting at this. Like he's cheap though. He's cheap. And at the price of like a late third, which I don't think he is anymore, he's probably close to like an early third. I don't hate it. Like I would spend a third on Adam Thielen. Who were we talking about a third earlier for that you would want to spend a third on, Frank?
Like Jacoby Brissett.
There's someone in between those two that we are talking about.
Gesicki?
Yeah, I'd rather get Adam Thielen than Gesicki. And I'm pretty sure Gesicki's ranked ahead of him.
Sure. I'd rather Thielen.
Gesicki is ranked ahead of him by a little bit. Nothing crazy, but
I don't know, dude. I have Gesicki in our home league. Not Gesicki. Thielen. I feel like I might sell for a third if you're interested, but
would you sell Thielen?
This landing spot is like the dream scenario for Thielen. It's literally the fucking dream.
No, it's the best. It's the best.
Like they could draft 3 receivers and you're still fine with where he's at on that team.
Yeah.
And like, you weren't ever expecting Thielen to be a top receiver. You're just like, okay, if you can get like 10 points a game and finish wide receiver 37, I'm very happy. Like,
and I think it'll be a little bit better than that. I think he'll be a solid flex play throughout the entire season, as long as he's healthy. I think health is really the only thing.
Yeah, as a contender, it's really like I wanted to sell Thielen. I was willing to give him away.
I like Thielen for any contender. If anything, I think he might be a buy for contenders now, because that's going to be like a nice flex play that like if a team's not contending, he's old, you don't want to keep him long term. If you're like going for it this year, like I feel comfortable starting Thielen in the flex this upcoming season.
The question I have is, can you just spend the 3rd round pick in a better way? Can you just spend that third to get someone who is as productive as Thielen, but doesn't have a good chance of just kind of going kaputs at the end of the year?
Well, who's that receiver?
I mean, the younger you get, the riskier you get.
Yeah. I mean, also the younger you get, the pricier it gets. Like who's that veteran receiver you're getting for a third? You're not getting Brandin Cooks for a third.
Yeah, I'm trying to find where Thielen is at on here.
You're looking at the ADP bulletproof.
Like
yeah.
Are you getting JuJu for a third too? But like, which I don't think it's probably gonna be a late second.
To give you a rough estimate, he's wide receiver 82 on keep trade cut, so he's probably in that.
Okay, so he's pretty darn cheap here. He's at 309, 310.
I would give up a third for Thielen. Now actually you have me thinking about our home league.
So the players behind
Pierce
him
is good.
are Jameis 310, McKinnon, James Robinson, Zonovan Knight, Hassan Haskins 311, Allen
I'm more interested
Robinson.
in the players right ahead of him.
Yeah, I'd easily give up any of those.
I just
players.
assume that you can't get the guys ahead of you.
Let me see, or let me hear him.
So it's Parris Campbell 309, Jeff Wilson, Mecole Hardman, Zach Wilson, Khalil Shakir, Tyquan Thornton 306.
Tyquan definitely no. As a contender, I would take him over a couple of those names.
307. David
only if
Bell,
you're
Zach
contender.
Ertz, Michael
I'd give
Carter.
up David Bell for Thielen at this point.
Oh,
I will say these
Yeah.
players ranked around him are pretty shit.
Yeah, he's kind of in a zone. Like, he's that target guy. Like, if you're in a startup and you're getting close to your pick, he's that guy that I'm hoping no one else drafts, so I could just pick him up for that cheap.
I mean, I'd rather have the draft picks.
A late third, I think. Obviously, given the situation, I think I'd rather just a late third than. I mean, I'd rather Adam Thielen than a late third.
Yeah, I don't know. These players around him really are just like shit.
It's not great.
No.
What about Hunter Henry? Would you rather have Hunter Henry or Adam Thielen?
Hunter Henry.
If I am going for it all this season, I lean Thielen. If I think I'm just a regular playoff team, or if I'm rebuilding, then Hunter Henry.
Okay. I don't know. I think I might trade Thielen if you guys are interested.
I said you were third.
I think I might just rather have the draft pick the more I think about it.
We can talk. I don't have a third this year, but like a future third.
Let's move on to the running backs. Devin Singletary signs with the Texans, so he leaves the Bills. I kind of forgot he was a free agent, if we're being honest. Not really that interested in Devin Singletary.
I think this is stock down for him because I don't think he's better than Damien Pierce. So now
I think this is just stock down for the backfield because Devin Singletary is one of those dudes that's just annoyingly good enough to steal workload. And yeah, it might not be a ton. It might only be like 25% of carries, and like snaps, but that still could.
Yeah, but wasn't like Rex Burkhead already kind of getting that? I feel like he's going to take the Rex Burkhead role.
So he started off pretty heavy, and then towards the end of the season fell off. Now you can make the argument because that was Damien Pierce showing up. I would make the argument that was just Rex Burkhead being kind of bad.
I mean, yeah, no, obviously Singletary is better than Burkhead. I think just when you look at, like, when you expect player progression, I think Damien Pierce will be a better player this upcoming season than last year. I think their offense in general will be a little bit better with better QB play, with more scoring opportunities. I think Bryce Young or Stroud is going to be better than any quarterback they played last season. This doesn't really change anything for me on Damien Pierce. It's more so just for...
Yeah. You really like Damien Pierce at his price tag right now?
Hold on.
Well, no. There's a difference between me saying buy Damien Pierce and does this make me lower my current value on Damien Pierce? You get what I'm saying?
I mean, yeah, but man, he's expensive. 612 right now, ADP in a startup. Above pick 109, Derrick Henry, the Muth, McLaurin, Dobbins, Hollywood.
Yeah, no, here's the difference. I'm not saying I like Damien Pierce at his high price tag. I'm just saying my current evaluation of him, which is lower than that price tag, isn't changing because of a Singletary signing. That's what I'm trying to say.
Dude, I don't know. I guess I was kind of already out on Pierce at that price, but I just don't.
That's different. You could be out on him on that price. Let's just say your current lower valuation of him. Does it decrease even more with this signing?
It does.
Okay, that's what I'm asking. For me, it doesn't. I have a lower valuation on him than that, but it's not decreasing because
I also am not sure this offense is really going to be that much better.
I'm not saying that much better,
dude, you could put fucking Brady in this offense, and they're still going to suck. So that usually doesn't bode well for anyone.
This is what sums up my thoughts about what I've been trying to say for the past month and a half, maybe even longer at this point, probably since we've gotten into the offseason. But at Scott Barrett, DFB tweeted out thoughts. There's never been a worse time to be a running back looking to get paid. The age of the bell cow running back is over. A lot of running backs going to see their value plummet. Just about every running back now is going to have to share the backfield. Going to be zero fun landing spots on draft night. That's kind of where I agree, where it's just, I think like all of these guys are going to be taking value hits left and right. I think we're going to see running backs just splitting carries for the most part. And Damien Pierce is one of them that I'm going to just lump in there. He's one that like doesn't really catch the ball a whole lot anyway. Obviously got a lot of touches last year, but I don't know how sustainable that is going forward, how like much they see him as a bell cow. So for Damien Pierce, especially at the price of $612, I'm out. But like where I view Damien Pierce to now, like with the Devin Singletary, I'm kind of in the same camp as Lounis, as it really hasn't changed a whole lot. But that's because I was so low on Damien Pierce from the start that it's kind of just like, yeah, no, he's still he's fine. I think he'll be the lead rusher for this team, but I'm not excited to have him. I'd rather just move him. So kind of opposite ends of the horseshoe where we're kind of on the same page here.
Yeah.
All right, next running back. This one I didn't really see coming. I thought he was going to be going back to the Lions, but then who did the Lions sign?
They got David Montgomery.
Yeah, David Montgomery. Signed Jamaal. Seems to me like Alvin Kamara is probably going to get suspended running back signing, but then also the added upside of he's just decent. He's pretty good in between the tackles, so we'll just bolster our running back group. I don't know. It's hard for me to say stock up on Jamaal Williams just because how much usage he got on the Lions, which I didn't really expect, and I don't really see that going forward unless it's a long Alvin Kamara suspension. So I'm not really moving him anywhere. Are you guys?
It's just tough to move him, right? Like you're really not getting a price tag that's great for what he gave you last year, so you're kind of forced to hold. I think the bigger question is, what does this do to Kamara? Because like it's not like Kamara can't still be productive, but this probably really hurts his, I can come in and be the RB1 I used to be type of production. But like then again, it's not like we haven't seen the Saints team for years have multiple running backs and Kamara just living off of the fact that he's just a reception guy. And now that they have Derek Carr in there, he might go back to being I'm just going to be a check down Charlie, and I don't need to get 15 carries, 20 carries a game. We can let Jamaal Williams get his 10, 12, 13 carries. And as long as Alvin Kamara is getting his like 5-6 receptions for 50 yards, another 7 to 10 carries, he's chilling. So I don't know. It's really tough for me to think, okay, is Alvin Kamara severely underpriced or is he kind of just right?
I think he's underpriced. If we're looking at the ADP on Bulletproof, where he's running back 29, he's still behind Brian Robinson. He's behind AJ Dillon, James Cook, Tyler Algier. Like, I still think we have a season or two of very high production from Alvin Kamara, where these guys I just don't. Because we did see it with, now, suspension aside, right? Let's just assume you're without him for 4 games, maybe 6, but I think 6 would be kind of harsh, given what we've seen for other similar infractions. I think with Alvin Kamara, we saw it last year on the Lions, where both Jamaal Williams and DeAndre Swift were productive runners. And I think objectively, Alvin Kamara is a better runner in between the tackles. Like, obviously, he's got the pass catching ability over Jamaal Williams, but the in between the tackles, I think Alvin Kamara is just a objective better runner than DeAndre Swift has been for the Lions. So I don't see why that can't also just be the case for the Saints here. And where he's currently ranked, going in the 11th round in Superflex startups, I think I'd say that's underpriced for Alvin Kamara.
Yeah, I probably would lean that he's underpriced, especially hearing that and some of the running backs he's ranked around.
Yeah, I mean, obviously age is the big factor, because the guys that he's ranked around are 3+ years younger than him. But I think you're just getting meh production from those guys. Where Alvin Kamara, you can kind of still ride the rocket for a little bit.
I just think that last year was that Zeke season for Kamara, where it was a different Kamara that you've seen before. But you did see Zeke, and he still might. He's free agency right now. Just kind of hang around, and yeah, he's not insane, but all things considered, he's still a plug and play running back, right? Like,
yeah,
that Zeke's gonna ruin some running backs' outlook.
And I don't know who's or something.
Yeah, like the Falcons.
You still have him. You still have. We don't know where Gibbs and Bijan are gonna go. Like, there are gonna be situations that get fucked.
Yeah,
it's interesting, right? Because someone just said that thing about the running backs. I don't fully agree with that because the NFL is all about ebbs and flows, and a lot of either the ebb or the flow, whichever you pick, has been going towards this passing attack. But to an extent, right? We've seen so many rules favor the passing attack. Like, do you think that just changes and they've been like, yo, maybe we went a little bit too far? Because I don't know about you guys, but you see that rule they implemented last year where you're literally like not allowed to touch someone beyond 5 yards?
Yeah.
That rule's fucking dumb. That is that's just a bad rule. Right? Like,
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think it'll get too bad because we still do see like some of the best teams in the NFL or some of the best offenses have like guys that are giving this RB1 production. Like we saw the 49ers, McCaffrey was still insanely productive, but let's just ignore like the high-end talented running backs. Like let's just look at, and we'll touch on him on his new team a little bit, but like Philadelphia, like they're as good an offense as anyone during the regular season, and they had Miles Sanders, who I think we can agree, like he's not in that elite level running backs of talent. Still put up like, I forgot exactly what he finished, but maybe like an RB10, RB11 season. He had like 1,200 yards and a decent amount of touchdowns. So I think it still will depend on the situation. We saw like Jamaal Williams, Austin Eckler. It's not something where like you can count on it for just as long. I think that's the only really difference.
I don't know. I feel like it's also convenient to say this on the downside of that amazing 2017 class. Like, this is the years where or was it 2016? One of the two.
2017.
Like, yeah, now that they're all phasing out, like one of the best running back draft classes you can argue of all time. Like, okay, yeah, there's no more bell cows. Maybe that's because we just saw all those dudes are now getting phased out. Like,
yeah, I think it's unrealistic to expect a full-on bell cow, but like that's gonna kind of be like the new median. It's like if you don't have a bell cow,
also need the receiving,
like falling behind too much because
all the stud muffin running backs, not all, most in fantasy are all getting a healthy amount of receptions and targets. Mm-hmm. All right, let's get into these other signings though, because I've just switched the topic by accident.
All right. Well, we kind of were just talking about him, but Zeke did get cut by the Cowboys. I don't know if there's anything else you wanted to add on to that, but
it's hard to give commentary until we find out what team he's going to.
Well, yeah, they signed Ronald Jones. I think the Ronald Jones move is going to be a bait because
it is bait.
One, I think that those backup running backs on the Cowboys, they like those guys. I would not be surprised if it's one of those rostered running backs that they have being their number 2 or in the rotation for that. And then obviously we have the NFL draft where if there's a team that is going to take the best player on the board, it is the Cowboys. And with the way that the NFL has been drafting these backs, there's a pretty darn good chance that one of their picks that a guy
Bijan.
like Charbonnet might be the top guy on their board.
Oh, you're thinking
Bijan might be the
Charbonnet.
top-
I'm thinking
Anyway,
even.
dude, the Cowboys. I respect the Cowboys. They just take the best player. That's what they do. Majority of the time, they just take the best guy. It doesn't have to always make sense. And for their first round picks have a phenomenal success rate. So if Bijan's there, they might fucking take Bijan.
No, I know. Yeah. I don't think it would necessarily be a bad idea. I think their offense would be insane.
As we get closer to the NFL draft, the more and more I'm kind of convincing myself that Bijan's not going to be available with those later picks. Like, where are the Cowboys?
In the first round
or something?
Oh, you think Bijan's going top 20? I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Yeah, I've kind of convinced myself he's going to be moving up.
I think Bijan is going to come in right away and give you like top 5 running back production.
But all right, with the Cowboys, they do have Malik Davis and Rico Dowell, I think, are the two on the roster, other than Ronald Jones. I do agree that Ronald Jones does feel like a bait. I don't really know if either of those two running backs are going to be the one that make him bait, but it's the same Ronald Jones story of every offseason. He signs with the team. It's always some kind of, it's never a bad team or a team that you don't really care about. It's always like the Chiefs and now the Cowboys, where you kind of can buy yourself into Ronald Jones and then it just doesn't end up panning out. Panthers signed Miles Sanders.
This is a very interesting move. Very interesting move. I mean, we saw them just destroy people with their running attack at the end of last year. I feel like Miles Sanders really fits this offense with that downhill running style they had.
I think it was one of the better. Like obviously leaving Philadelphia is going to be a downgrade when like you're leaving that O-line and like that high scoring offense. But I think considering he was going to leave Philly, this is kind of one of the better outcomes. I think he got 4 years at around like $6.5 million per. In an offense where there's probably going to be a rookie QB, so they're probably going to lean on the run game a bit. I thought even when CMC left, their running backs were productive between Hubbard
extremely productive. They had the best running attack in football.
Yeah. And so I think this is a place where he can still I still think he'll give you RB2 numbers, assuming health-wise he's okay.
I'm kind of concerned that I think this is going to be a 3 to even 4 running back head monster.
I would want to say that, but they gave him a decent deal.
Yeah, but
especially when you're looking at some of the deals the other running, he got paid more than I want to say David Montgomery, or if not paid more than the same annual but another year on it. Wasn't Montgomery 3 for 18 and then Sanders is 6 for 20 or 4 for 24?
Lounis, you're such a fucking contract merchant, dude. Look at you. Oh, was it 6 for 23 or 3 for 20? Just shut up, you contract merchant.
That's important.
No, it's
not really. Jonathan Smith got paid a ton and they just never used him.
That was kind of the Patriots.
Dude, all that fucking matters is that their offense needs to be good. Their offense was good at the end of last year. Unironically, they were good. They were able to move the ball and they were able to score points. They need for Miles Sanders to pay off again. That offense needs to move the ball and score points, right? And if it's the running attack that does that, great. If it's the rookie quarterback coming in there and slinging the pill to Adam Thielen, that helps that running attack. So they just need to be good. This can't be a team where it's you show up in training camp and all of a sudden you hear everything's going wrong and now you have a team that just sucks and they are back in line for the number 1 overall pick for the fucking Bears.
True. I think they'll be decent. I don't know what the splits in the carries are going to be, which is where my concern lies. But Luna seems pretty convinced that it is going to be Miles Sanders as the main.
Dude, Miles Sanders is the most talented back on that team.
I agree.
If Donta Foreman was still there, I'd be a little bit more concerned.
Yeah, no,
I agree with that. I think
my thing is, I know you're saying contract. I don't think there'd be a point in paying a running back a long-term contract like that if you didn't plan on using them a decent amount. Especially with how
I think they may have had to do that just to fucking get him to go there.
Yeah, that is kind of the same situation that Jaguars deal with, where it's we have to pay. At least they did. Now that they're a playoff team, who knows? But you had to pay more to get him to go to the Jaguars because it was the Jaguars. Like, they weren't a good team. All right, Alexander Mattison resigns with the Vikings. Kind of just not that exciting for people that have had Alexander Mattison and have been waiting for him to get his chance. Thumbs down for both of you.
Big thumbs down. This is that classic meme of like, and Alexander Mattison starts cutting into Dalvin Cook's playing time. His contract runs out. Like, gets in, signs with a team. Oh, back with the Vikings. Like,
he couldn't pull the Tony Pollard.
Yeah, Tony Pollard did end up being a big winner here, whereas Alexander Mattison did not. No. I just think at this point, I've been out on Alexander Mattison, but
yeah, you have to hold. But this just kind of confirms that he's just
jagged.
Yeah, he's just another guy.
All right, well, I'm just gonna move on from him. James Robinson signed with the Patriots. As a Patriots fan, not that impressed. I don't know. I think it's Ramondre Stevenson's backfield. I think it's fine. Like, he's a good depth signing. They did draft like 3 running backs. I think it was the actual number is 2, but they have been adding running backs kind of constantly. I'm not going to rule out them even adding another one in this draft. I think James Robinson. I think he's in the Ronald Jones
scratches. If you're getting healthy scratches on the Jets after Breece Hall got hurt, like.
I think this is perfect for James Robinson simply because of the fact that he is going to get an opportunity, and it's not like one. They are going to give him a chance to earn carries on this team. I mean, that's how the Patriots operate. They are willing, like, dude, like Damien Harris last year. It's not like when he was playing, he was completely phased out. Like, he was given opportunities when healthy to get carries and whatnot. I think that James Robinson is going to at least get the chance to be like, okay, I'm not completely Slug McGee after that after that Achilles injury or whatever. And he's going to get a chance. So given the price tag, I think it's a great move and a great opportunity for James Robinson. Yeah, it stinks that he's behind Ramondre Stevenson, but it's a team that is willing to split carries if they have multiple good players. And I really don't think there was like going to be this amazing landing spot for James Robinson.
That's true. But I'm at the point where I'm concerned about him making the roster.
Yeah, and that's fine. That's in the range of outcomes. But what are you going to do? You can't sell him. You can't sell him. Maybe you can get a fourth to someone that likes the name brand value. But I even might just hold as the handcuff upside. You know, if he does get that step back, he could be a high value handcuff.
Yeah, I don't mind holding him. I'll hold him. If you're telling me I could have a fourth of James Robinson, if I had James Robinson, I'd keep him instead of trading for a fourth. But I don't know if I'd actively trade my fourth for James Robinson, if that makes sense. Yeah, if I have him, I'm keeping him. If I don't, I'm not going out and buying him. The Bucs signed Chase Edmonds, whatever. Nothing. Yeah, Rachaad White and Chase Edmonds is kind of just
Yeah, I'm just not going to own any shares of the Bucs backfield, it seems like. Maybe if I can get Chase Edmonds for free.
Lounis isn't here, but I think he'd have more of a pro Rachaad White argument. Maybe he'd even say, like, Chase Edmonds signing is good for Rachaad White, because if that means that's the only running back that's coming in there, he's pretty excited about Rachaad White's future outlook. I'm just not really a Rachaad White guy, so I'm not going to give that argument.
Yeah, not me either. I was definitely not a Rachaad White guy. I was actually actively against him. Like, I'm willing to admit that, yeah, Rachaad White's panned out more than I thought, but at the same time, like, I'm not going to invest my draft. You have to pay more than a first, or at least a first. I'm not going to be doing that. Fuck
yeah, same. Exactly. Okay, other running backs, we have the Bills signed Damien Harris. So James Cook had like a couple hours of stocks up where Devin Singletary went to the Texans, and it looked like he was going to be the main back. And then the Bills signed Damien Harris, and now that's all in limbo. I don't know who the lead back for this team is going to be. It seems like another run back by committee situation going on here, where Damien Harris is probably going to be more apt to do the in between the tackles kind of runs, while James Cook would be more of your pass catching back, is kind of how I'd assume this offense lines up. I'm not going to rule the Bills out from drafting a running back either. Just seems like another offense that I'd be avoiding the running back position, despite it being such a high scoring offense.
I don't know. I think that there's value at the running back position here. The only problem I have is that I just think that this offense running the football is going to be too inconsistent. If they get a matchup where they like it and they want to drop back and throw the ball 80% of the time, they're going to drop back and throw the ball 80% of the time. Mm-hmm. The fact of the matter is, though, if I'm the Bills, I recognize the fact that one of the reasons why I think they can't get over the hump is because everything is through Josh Allen. Like, if Josh Allen has a bad game, they lose most of the time. Yeah, the defense is very good as well, and that defense definitely wins them some games. But come those playoff games when every offense is good, like, yeah, unless the defense is like fucking insane, they're not going to win you a game in the modern day. They're not going to go out there and win you the game against Joe Burrow most of the time. Like, you know, you can't go out there and your offense be lackadaisical and win nowadays. So, like, maybe they recognize that, but, like, I think for the regular season, it doesn't really, like, help a ton. On top of the fact that I don't think the consistency will be there. But it's interesting, right? If you have Damien Harris, this is definitely a huge up arrow with the like, hey, you know, this is a guy that looked like he was going to go kaputs, and now he has a chance at being in a lead backfield of a committee. Sure, I'll take that. What is his price right now?
Let's check. You want to use the bulletproof site? I'll look on.
Late second.
Oh, if he's a late second, I might. I see he's right next to 302. I actually think that's pretty. I mean, it should be accurate. And I feel like that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, that sounds right.
Yeah, I'm trying to find him on.
So, like, who would you rather have, him or Allen Lazard?
Him. I just don't really
Damien
like
Harris or Allen Lazard.
Yeah, Damien Harris. I'd rather have.
I think I may lean Lazard. I mean, assuming the Rodgers things go well, Lazard. But that's the only reason I say that.
Harris or 302?
Harris.
Damien Harris or Baker Mayfield?
Baker.
Harris.
Just give me the quarterback.
Interesting. Damien Harris or close. Tyler Boyd?
Harris. It's kind of just a running back for a wide receiver.
Harris, but I don't think
there.
It's like
Damien Harris or Jelani Woods / Cade Otton?
I'm a Jelani Woods truther, so I guess him. Not Cade Otton, though. I'd rather Damien Harris than Cade Otton.
Harris, but I don't feel confident in my answer.
Damien Harris or Rashad Penny? Last one.
Ooh, this is a tough one.
For the upside, Penny.
Oh no, I like both. I would want both. But I'll take Damien Harris.
I mean, that's interesting. Like, is it worth if you have, like, because you can get those early thirds and on draft day potentially just snatch up the Damien Harrises and the Rashad Pennies of the world.
Rashad, it's like the ultimate dice roll, because I mean, like, if he stays healthy, Rashad Penny should have a good season. I just, like, he's never been able to. Like, so.
Well, I mean, if you have, let's say, an early second, you could, and I'm not advising you to do this, it's just an idea, move back a handful of times. Let's say you pick up a package of 211, 302, and like 303 for 201. You may be able to get more than that for 201, but I think that's relatively even value. It's got to be, right?
Yeah.
2 early thirds and a very late second. You could move that for the likes of Damien Harris, Rashad Penny, and like Raheem Mostert. It's not sexy, but like that's a little slew of potentially lead backfield guys, right? Like, it's interesting.
No, it is.
If you're a contender,
it's like a dice roll on any of them.
Listen, that's just off the top of my head. You might be able to get running backs around those values that you like more, right? Insert here, like, okay, if Kareem Hunt signs somewhere, you might be able to pick up Kareem Hunt in replacement of one of those players.
Real quick thing on Kareem Hunt is the fact that he hasn't been signed kind of like slightly lower his value to you guys?
No.
I think it's like, obviously it's concerning that he's not signed.
That's the thing. It's not like a major deal, but I'm like,
it's not like, it's just a matter of like when he gets signed, he gets signed and then boom, his value is instantly like confirmed or there. I think right now he's just in a limbo spot.
Yeah.
I think most of the free agents before they get into a landing spot are usually in a limbo spot. I think it's, and this is why, like, okay, we're gonna get into a segment after these last two. We could speed run it, like trades that we've done. And to be honest, I find it hard to do trades right now before the NFL draft for the draft picks, and at least before free agency for a lot of those question mark guys.
Yeah. Well, all right. Do you want to speed through and then we'll get to that?
Dalton Schultz, Dearness Johnson signs with the Jaguars, backup running back. Cool.
I don't give a shit.
Dalton Schultz signs with the Texans.
I'm anti-Dalton Schultz at this point.
I think it's telling that he didn't get the offer that he wanted.
Yeah, it's like whatever, you know. I imagine that most people who had Dalton Schultz have tried to sell him for the high price tag at some point.
Yeah, no, it's over.
OJ Howard signs with the Raiders. Well, it's interesting. I
guess
know.
Now with the Foster Moreau news.
Yeah, but how many times is OJ Howard going to go to a good landing spot and not pan out?
I mean,
OJ Howard cried wolf.
You're going to be the number 4 option and like decently far back from the first 3 on a team that has an elite running back and Jimmy G trying to support these options.
Yeah, they should just go in and just get a block merchant, right? Just get a blocking guy. You know, go pick yourself up a freaking big ass blocking dude that can kind of catch the ball.
I'm kind of just in like a fool me once, fool me twice. I don't know how many times OJ Howard can fool me buying into him. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah, it's done.
So, all right, that's our free agency signings.
Let's just shoot the shit here on trades that we've done recently. So, you guys doing any trades recently? I know me and Lounis did that trade for the Breece Hall, Javonte Williams swap recently.
I feel like we talked about that. Yeah, we did a trade a couple days ago.
Oh yeah, I traded JT Rashid Shaheed for 306. I thought that was a good deal for you. I kind of needed, so I'll give you the context. I kind of just needed to move off of a player. My bench was full of, I mean, now that Adam Thielen is signed, I might have been able to move off of Adam Thielen instead. But nonetheless, I've been doing a strategy in that league where I just hoard a shit ton of 4th and 5th round picks. And
he's not lying.
Yeah, I think I have this year. I think I have like 12 4ths and 5ths this year, and like another like 12 next year. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna set my lineup before the draft all the guys. Probably spend the first couple weeks of the season without being able to set my lineup while I wait for these dudes to marinate and see who I should cut, and then or try to sell them. And then see how that pans out.
I like it.
I'm interested to see how you do that with, like, say you get like an Isaiah Pacheco on your team, right? And say you drafted him in the 4th round. He's now into the early 3rd. Like, are you trading him then, or are you gonna hold on and be like, wait, he could still go up?
So I have thought about that. I think I'm gonna err on the side of selling lower, and earlier. Like with realizing that that's going to bite me in the ass a couple of times, but also there are times where it could pan out, right?
Mm-hmm. Like a Romeo Dobbs so far.
Right. I mean, yeah, there's so many examples of times when, I mean, there's probably more times when you trade early, it pans out. It's just.
Who was the Chiefs running back before Pacheco that happened with?
I mean, dude, every year there's thousands of training camp pipe players, right? But the problem is that if your guy actually hits, selling that sale price is like drastically lower than what that player is going for. So I traded Rashid Shaheed for 306. Nonetheless, I thought it was a relatively even trade with JT getting the slightly better side. I did another trade recently. I traded Jahan Dotson for 201 and a future second.
Oh yeah, you did.
I also gave up something else in that trade. What did I give up?
Yeah,
like
I
a
thought
fourth.
that was a good trade. Third, I think. Fourth.
I think I gave up an early fourth on top.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this is the reason I did that trade. I do like Jahan Dotson was kind of twofold. First off, I think that second year receivers, like receivers going into their second season with, I guess, one season of experience, tend to become pretty darn overpriced. Like, not saying that Garrett Wilson is overpriced, because I think that the true high-end, great prospect players are pretty darn good. But like, how many times do you see these guys? It's like, okay, you look at their resume, like it's good, but there's a shit ton of risk. Go for these kind of like prices where it's almost they're priced as if they're guarantees, right? I struggle to get that out, but it's like when you see a guy like George Pickens going for a very similar price to like a DJ Moore, maybe when he was on the Panthers. Yeah, George Pickens could pan out, but then what does he become if he's not an easy like top 10 scorer? He kind of just becomes DJ Moore.
Mm-hmm.
So like, listen, I disagree with those people who say like, oh, well, I could trade my Mike Evans for a first who could be Mike Evans, because I disagree with that, because it's like, my first round pick is not going to just blow up to smithereens like any player in the league can, basically. But I do agree when you have a sophomore receiver that goes for just crazy prices, right? Like George Pickens, you may even have to pay more than a first for to actually get people to move him in some leagues. Like, dude, fuck that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's more where I lie to you on. I like that trade for you a lot. Trading. I'm kind of just not a Jahan Dotson guy either, though. So
I don't know. I do like Dotson. I wish I could have gotten a first instead of 201 and a future second. I guess the other thing too, though, is a theme in some of my leagues. I have been trying to target these early seconds a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because I saw on Twitter a lot of people saying that the late first round, I think this is more towards 1 QB leagues, but nonetheless that the late first round is kind of a dead zone for a lot of people, that they don't like the way that the draft is looking. And I think I disagree with that. Given some of the mocks we've done, like, it's not amazing, the receiver prospects and running back prospects, but you got some damn good tight ends. And I still think that these like, you look at the aggregate of all drafts instead of just like 2020 and last year, where everyone thinks that every one of their sophomore receivers they drafted are fucking massive hits. I think it could be pretty average, all things considered.
I think the pockets.
I tend to lean towards that drop off. I figured out the exact pick that I thought there was a drop off. I'm forgetting it off the top of my head. I think it was like 108 or 109. The tight ends do kind of make it interesting, but it's tough because I do think some of those guys can hit. I don't know if I'm buying into. I thought the Dotson trade was good for value for 201, and
it was definitely a good value trade. Like
I thought that was. But in terms of like sending assets to specifically get like a 112, like sending like multiple picks, I'm like, eh.
Well, I've been more going for the early seconds also, just because if I like whether or not I agree with there's a tier break at that 109, 110, 10, whatever the fuck. I just think that the quality of player extends into that early second that you can end up getting. Like I'm willing to pick up a Devin Achane in the early second. I'm not going to be unhappy with that one bit, given he projects out like I think he's going to. Charbonnet, Zay Flowers, whatever. Or at least like it can command a price tag to sell.
No, I think it's fair. I think a lot of them are in the same tier where it's like the ordering's not going to be as definite as it is with like the top 8 or 9 picks.
Let me ask you this: what would it take if you're a good team, right? You're in our home league, Lounis. You have a first next year. I want to sell you 201 for your first next year. What on top of 201 does it take for you to make that trade?
Can you repeat that? So you're trading.
I'm trying to move 201 into a future first. What does it take on top of 201, if anything, to get a future first?
It's definitely going to take something because I'm not trading the future first for the 201 straight up.
Would be what about 201 this year and their second next year, 2024 second for 2024 first?
But when we're saying their second, are we assuming that it's going to be an early
basically the package I gave up for I just got for Dotson? I could move it into it for a first. Like, is that what it would take?
I think that sounds.
I think it also depends on who's on the board and what happens with the draft.
Yeah.
Because like I think if Jalen Hyatt goes in the top 25 picks. And you get someone who likes Jalen Hyatt, they might be willing to give up a first, but then you may have someone who hates him. Same thing with like a Zay Flowers if he's there.
A lot of my valuations on like the draft is in terms of like rookie drafts, a shit ton of stuff is going to change like a ton after the NFL draft. Once we get draft capital stuff, once we figure out where people are going, like everything changes. So we can say an answer now. That'll be drastically different. 2 months from now?
If Zay Flowers goes first round to the Giants, are you willing, if he's there at 201, are you willing to give up your future first to pick up Zay Flowers?
One for one?
Yeah.
No.
In that scenario, what would it take? Would it still take like a second?
Second, but like later second. Like it would take like, if Zay Flowers is there and he went first round and you offered me 201 to take him. Like originally I was like kind of more higher in the second round, but I think in that scenario, like you could get away with like something like throwing in like a 211 or 210.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I think if I'm doing that in the home, I think I might just take the player at that point though. A first round receiver.
That's fair. I'm just I like how next year's draft is.
Are you a Zay Flowers guy?
Say every year. I like Zay Flowers.
I find myself I think I'm a Zay Flowers guy, but then like
I'm not in love with Zay Flowers.
It's all over. Consensus is all over the place for Zay Flowers. So I don't
like him as much as some people do online.
Yeah, I'm definitely lower on consensus, but that doesn't mean I like hate him.
I'd rank him as probably my wide receiver 4 or 5 in this class, which I don't know if that means higher or lower, but like where I have him in the overall scheme of the draft is probably around that 201 spot. Maybe I
imagine that there are people that are willing to take him with a mid first.
A mid first?
Oh, like mid late, like 108, 109, 110.
Yeah,
I imagine Jake's probably around there.
I was talking today actually about Zay Flowers, and I think I fell on like I take him around 110, 111. So take that as you will, I guess, if I'm a Zay Flowers guy or not. All right. Anything else you guys want to add?
Nothing else really on my end.
You guys got any trades you've done?
Just the CGE one recently.
I should have pulled up more. I guess the last thing I'll say is that one of the things I'm struggling with is that I feel like one of the better times to trade players is more so in August and in training camp and whatnot. I think that's where
prime time.
And I don't know. I feel like in a lot of leagues, I struggle to sell these picks before the NFL draft. You get a lot of people that, whether it's just they're inactive and won't respond to trades, or they just don't want to, which is fair. I don't know. I find trading around this time a little bit wonkier. With free agency, I've been able to trade like free agent players. That have gotten like decent landing spots and things, or like their value is changed due to a free agent coming to town or something. And I like in my leagues, I've seen a lot of those trades go down as well.
I would agree. I do. That's normally the time I like making most of my trades before the season, around that time period, because there's so much you can do with that. Like everyone's opinions on rookies is different and varying. There's so many situations where you can take advantage of training camp hype. In both ways, like that's the part where like people's rankings of different players are just it's like the wonky, and it's easier also just immediately after that draft, like to get future picks. Immediately after a lot of people's rookie drafts, which are probably done by the time you're like around August, or like about to be done. So that's my personal favorite time to make trades because you could take advantage of so many of like these different hype trains, and like, yeah, sure, you'd like maybe a hype train may end up coming to life, but that's when like I get really into it and like looking at different trade opportunities.
Yeah, I think you just gain clarity on a lot of players.
Yeah, for sure.
Start to gain insight on how people are actually doing. Yeah, that's really all I got. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for analytics on Zay are bad. I like his film though. I made a trade 1 QB star 8. What's the trade? Yeah, I saw that the analytics weren't amazing on Zay Flowers. Like if you look at I think it's experience adjusted production for when you look at the average top 24 receivers, like every one of his seasons he had below average production. But I mean, listen, dude, you scroll Twitter for an hour, Dynasty Twitter, you're gonna see one Zay Flowers "I love you" thread. Like,
yeah, people are very high on Zay Flowers.
Traded Cooks in a 24 third for a 24 first guy at Dak. Yeah, that's a great trade. I would do that 100 times out of 100. But yeah, if you made it this far, thank you so much for listening. Thank you so much for watching. Really appreciate it. Thank you all for tuning into the chat. Appreciate that as well. We'll catch you next Tuesday. Thank you so much. Peace out. Have a good one.
See you guys.